Hello and welcome to a quick guide on taking pictures and making nice looking posters and graphics in ACC. Let's jump straight in. So first things first, make sure you turn all your graphics settings both on your graphics card control panel and in your sim to max. You will need that to get all of the fancy effects and just to make it look nice generally. Second most important thing is the picture itself and the composition. So if we jump right in here to ACC, you'll see I've loaded up a replay. It kind of depends what you're creating here, if it's just a picture or if it's going to have some graphics, if it's going to have some information. I'm going to do a poster for a race coming up on Saturday, this coming Saturday. So I want a bit of space in the image to be able to put some details, put some driver names, some logos, some sponsors, you know, all that good stuff, without it looking too cluttered. So it's definitely worth keeping in mind what you're creating in the end, while you pick the angle to take your picture from. Second of all, I think one of the most important things is the realism for me. I mean, it's a bit of a style thing. A lot of people like pictures that look real. I think that's kind of what sim racing is all about, really, isn't it? It's simulated racing. So you want to try and make your pictures look as real as possible, if that's your thing, and that is my thing. So I've just hit the F7 key while being on board with the car, and that puts you into free camera mode. It's worth a quick Google and a look around the settings and all the hotkeys if you don't know any of those. So here we are with the McLaren. What I want is some space, like I said, probably above the car for some driver names and stuff. And I've decided that here, coming out of the last corner at Silverstone, it's quite a recognisable part of the track. We've got the grandstands in the back that gives some draw some attention. And hopefully we hit the apex. Yeah. So this is kind of roughly the place where I want the picture from. So I want the car in the foreground, some grandstands and stuff in the background, and then some nice clear blue sky to be able to put some graphics and some names on. So if you're going for realism, you've got to think that a photographer can only take a picture where they can stand. There's no real use having the picture taken from here in the middle of the track when, well, there's going to be stood in the middle of the track as a photographer. There's bloody cars whizzing around. So just using the controls here. Field of view is important, depending on what sort of picture you're going for. Generally, a lower field of view will give you a nicer looking image. Let's try from down here. And another good tip, kind of a general photography tip, is that being low down helps. There's a lot of pictures people take. They'll whip their camera out wherever they're stood, hold it in front of their face, take a picture, and you get pictures that all look the same and they don't really have much drama to them. Drama's maybe a bit of a wrong word, but they all look the same. It looks like the person's whipped their camera out and fired a picture as quick as they can. Whereas if you get right down low to the ground, or you put the camera in an unusual position, where you wouldn't usually have your eyes, it creates things that are interesting. So worth noting, I used the free camera tool, and I am locked into the car here. So if I rewind, you'll see I'm stuck on the car, and that just gives some nice motion blur in the background. You don't really need to do this. You can do the motion blur manually, and I'll probably do some manual motion blur as well on this later, but it just helps give a bit more of an effect. There's a bloody Bentley in the way. So how's this looking for a picture so far? Something around there. Looks okay. I'm not completely convinced yet, though. You really want to spend the time to get something that you're happy with at this point, because the composition of the picture and the way that it looks and where the car is and the things around it is probably the most important thing, I think. So it's worth putting some time in at this stage to make sure that you're really happy with it.
2 hours later.
Okay, right. Getting somewhere now. So apologies for the brief pause there while I've free camered around the track for 20 minutes as part of this quick video trying to find a good angle. So thinking back to photography rather than pictures and games, a good technique is the rule of thirds, if you've heard of that. So you split an image into 3 chunks, and generally you put the focus points on those lines and where the intersections are. It just kind of it emphasizes things in the picture, but gives you it transforms the picture into a story almost. That's a bit of a naff phrase, but if you take a picture of something and you put it slap bang in the middle of the frame, it sometimes doesn't really tell a story. It's just a picture of that thing. There are exceptions, but generally putting things on these rules of thirds is good, and not always, not a concrete rule, but the more things you can get on those rule of thirds, the better. And especially in something like this, which is going to be a poster or a graphic. I've stumbled across this angle, so I've got the car at the bottom, and then the new Silverstone wing building. Is it new anymore? Probably not. So I kind of want the car, and then the wing, and then the sky as my 3/3 in the image, and that also leaves me some nice room over the top for some graphics, and it's recognizable. It's Silverstone, great. So reasonably happy with this. So I just need to try and find the actual, the best angle I want, because I don't want the car to get lost in the foreground here a little bit, but I also want it still to be recognizable. So maybe kind of real down low over here, something like this. It's a bit annoying with the camera clipping through the wall. So something like that. The annoying thing that I don't know if this is a bit of a hacky crap way to do it, but getting the blur and everything working means that you have to stick the camera on the car like this, find your angle, get to the moment where you want it. So if I say somewhere around here, does that look good? Maybe try a bit closer to the car. We'll go with this for the sake of time, not spending 3 hours on this. So something like this is going to be my image. To get this with the motion blur, I need to rewind about 10 seconds, follow the car through, and press my screenshot button at the time when I want the picture. So it's kind of like actually taking a picture. You need to time it well. Luckily, you can rewind the replay and do it all over and over again, which obviously helps. In this instance, I'm just going to be using the print screen button. There is a proper screenshot function both in Steam and in ACC as well, I think. But I think it used to have a few bugs. I'm not sure if it still does or not. Maybe it does, and I should be using that. And maybe drop a comment below. That's a YouTube thing to say, isn't it? But if you've been using the proper ACC screenshot button and it works well now, please let me know and I will start using it. But until then, I'm just going to use what I know and what I've tested and what I'm familiar with. So I'm going to rewind about 10 seconds, get rid of that GUI if I can, and try to hit print screen at the right time. There we go. Car comes around the corner, and bang. Let's have a look, see if I got it. Actually, no, let's not have a look and see if I got it. I definitely got it, and thanks to the magic of YouTube, you'll never know if I didn't. So here we are in Photoshop. I've got my picture. I did actually do this first time, not the magic of YouTube, but I'm reasonably happy with that. It's all kind of lined up. You've got some interesting things. The wing of the wing, I guess you could call it, is right above the car. So that's nice. So first things first, straight into Photoshop. Kind of the order in which I do things is that you sort out you take the picture, get your composition, then you do any editing on the picture that you want to do in terms of moving things around, adding blurs, getting the framing of the picture. If you don't want it just 16:9, maybe you want it square. So I'm going to do all of that in Photoshop here, and then go to Lightroom to get the colors looking really nice. I think Lightroom's just a brilliant tool for dragging some sliders around, maybe chuck some presets on it, and in a really short amount of time you can get something that looks really nice. And after that, I'll go back into Photoshop to add all the graphics and stuff on top of there. So first things first, the motion blur. I don't know if this is just because of my setup or my game or the way I've got it running, but I always seem to get these little fuzzy, not very nice bits around the car, which is a bit annoying. So a little trick that I always do first, which is also the method in which you can add motion blur just to a static image, but take the little selector tool and go all the way around the car. It doesn't have to be exact, just roughly following the edge, and I will cut this bit out for the video. But once you've got all that selected, once you've got all that selected and you deselected the points in the middle, remember, don't forget those. If you've got a car where you can see through the windows, make sure you get through there so you can, if you want to select anything from the background that isn't attached to the car, because otherwise you'll have a few gaps. So that's probably good enough, so I will grab that and just do Control-C for copy. Then if you go to where the layer is on the right and hold Control and click in where the little image is, it will reselect what you've just done. So that Control click on that picture selects everything on that layer around it, and then click back onto the background and do a Control-I, Control-Shift-I. Control-Shift-I, I don't know what Control-I is, but I'm going to press it again because it did something there. Control-Shift-I, which inverts that selection. So I've clicked on the car, selected just the car, then gone onto the background and said give me everything else. So it's given me all of the background, and I will copy and paste that as well. So now I've got two layers. I've got the background without the car, and I've got the car without the background. So if we enable all of those three layers, sorry, click on the background one and go to filter blur, and depending on what sort of picture you're doing, you maybe want a different, you don't always just want motion blur. So motion blur will do everything in one direction, and the other one that you might want is radial blur, which either does a spin, which you probably don't want unless you're doing like a wheel and you want the wheel to look like it's spinning, or you zoom. So zoom's kind of a motion blur but directed towards a point. So if you've got a car, I think one of the last promo graphics I did, I was really close to the front of the car, so the motion is kind of a pinch zoom. The car's coming towards you, so everything kind of blurs away from that point. And this is brilliant for that, but I don't think it's going to be useful here. I think this is going to be more of just a standard motion blur. So you can take the little preview box, find roughly the angle that you want the blur to be at. Generally you want that to be the plane in which the car's travelling on. It doesn't always want to be dead horizontal if the car's running on a bit of an angle track. A good way to do this is if you've got a white line going across the track, as I have here, you want to line the angle of the blur up with that white line so it still stays nice and crisp. That's a good little hack. Now I don't want to put too much blur on this. Really it's just in this instance it's just a little bit to get rid of that pixelization effect that I have for some reason. Again, answers on a postcard of how I can fix that. So that looks nice, just a moderate amount of blur. Next I'm going to crop this, so this is going to be a promo graphic for things like Instagram, Facebook, all those jazzy tools. So square is always a good choice for that, especially for Instagram. You get the most vertical real estate on your post, and just makes everything look a bit bigger and nicer. So we'll save that and get it into Lightroom. So here we are in Lightroom. Brilliant tool, probably my favorite photography tool. And what we're going to do here is just to get this picture looking nice, throw some effects at it, maybe some presets, and just get it looking a bit more either realistic or punchy or whatever we want to do. So it looks quite bland at the moment, if I'm honest. The colour doesn't really jump out. There's not much impact, I don't think. So first things first, we'll get the exposures and everything right. It's worth keeping an eye on these histograms at the top here. They are very useful for tracking whereabouts you are in terms of the lights and the shadows, and make sure you're not losing any detail or losing too much detail. it's kind of just a trial and error thing, really. Drag the bars around, see what looks good, see what doesn't, see where you get to. These texture and clarity effects are usually quite good for giving something some grit and making it look a little bit more realistic. I usually crank these up quite high. I know that's a style thing. Add some vignettes as well, always looks nice. Grain is kind of a subjective one. Some people like to use that to give it a bit more of a photorealistic feel. In this instance, I might leave it on, give it a go. Kind of depends what you're after. It can sometimes make a picture look lower quality. You really need to only just use enough of it to make it look like photo grain and not just like, you know, hideous. So I have a little bit of that. Split toning, really good. So you've got the shadows and the highlights setting. You're essentially adding colour to the shadows and the highlights independently, and you can do some really cool looking stuff with this. A good place to start is there's lots of different ways in which people do this. Generally, highlights you want as a warmer colour rather than a cooler colour, and then the shadows maybe something quite bluey or purple in that region. I'm just going to drag this around until it looks roughly nice. You can always toggle this on and off to see if you've done something you actually like. I quite like that. There we go. So I've added a little bit more warmth to the background and to the foreground as well. Not the background, sorry, the shadows and the highlights. So there's a little button down here, show original. We can toggle that on and off so you can see what you've done. I think already this looks a lot better. It's got a lot more impact to it. It jumps out at you a lot more. The presets in Lightroom I think are really cool. These are just the basic ones, so I've not downloaded any extras here. But you can just kind of drag your mouse over them and see. Just hello. So unfortunately at this point I had a technical error and I lost audio, which is always brilliant. So essentially I was just chatting through all of the filters, what they sort of look like, what they do, and what sort of effects you want to try and get for each of your pictures. It's real trial and error, and it's real down to, it's kind of subjective of how you like it. So eventually I ended up going with this kind of washed out, lowish contrast filter, and then I kind of used this the adjustment brush tool here as well, brushed onto the car and just changed some of the settings on the car to make the car stand out a little bit more. And that was the finished product in Lightroom. So from there, chucked it back into Photoshop and stuck some graphics over the top. Not much to say about this. It's kind of graphic design more than photography, so to speak. So all the relevant information for the upcoming race on Saturday. If you're interested in watching, here we go, 1 PM Saturday 6th of March. You can catch it on youtube.com/thesimgrid. It's the final round of the SimGrid Endurance Cup Season 2 with the 8 hours of Silverstone. Myself and Luca will be driving in the McLaren. Hopefully looking for a good race there. We drove in the 12-hour last week with quite a lot of ballast and still did okay, so hoping for a good result this week as well. So look, thank you for watching. Apologies about the audio issues. That's a little bit of a nightmare, but I've had a bit of a software glitch, it seems, that's cut out the recording from half of what I've done today, so that's a little bit frustrating, but there we go. So yep, thank you for watching, and see you soon for more content.